welcome back to my channel. Thank you for coming back, and as always, huge massive thank you for the support. I really do appreciate it. So coming back today with the Pun-tastic card toppers. This one is called a Punderful Day. So we've got our cheese with your Just Great, we've got our lemon and lime with your Simply the Zest. Have a spectacular time with our little sun with the sunglasses on, very much like the Teletubby sun, that one. And then we've got our pizza with Have a Slice Day, and we've got two borders on there as well, a sort of dotty one, and the leaves from the lemon and lime. So that is what we're going to be having a little play with today. So the second card is a little bit more involved, so I'm going to start with a simpler one for the first one. So I'm going to do a little stepper card. So I'm going to take a piece of 6x12 cardstock. It's 300 GSM weight. And I'm going to pop it over. So my cut line is here. I'm just popping it over to the 1 inch side, and then I'm just going to cut from 1 to 7. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. And into the 1. And then just to put the score lines in the middle, so it's just across that 6 inch mark, so just where my middle of my card would be, so where it would normally fold. So all of the other creases are on the outside, but this one in the center is really hard to sort of, it's not really hard, but it just makes it easier to mark it on here first of all using that trimmer, and then take it onto the scoreboard. Okay, so I'm going to start by scoring at 1 up to the cut line, 2 up to the cut line, and 7 up to the cut line. And then I'm just going to turn that over and do the same again. So 1 to the cut line, 2 to the cut line, and 7. And then just where I've put that little score line in, just going to find the line and just reinforce that with a deeper score. Let's pop that out of the way, and we can just start manoeuvring this into place, and you can see how quickly that sort of folds down. I'm just going to use my little burnishing tool just to get all those creases really nice and tight. Just remembering those underneath ones as well. There. And then you're going to end up with your little card that stands like so. I mean, you could have it as a card going that way and decorate it across if you wanted to. I'm going to use it as a normal stepper. So let's bring in the trimmer again. And I've got a piece of gold mirror card because the foiling on this kit is gold. So we're going to start with this piece here because it's the longest piece, and it's 1 by 6. So I'm going to take 2 notches off that 1 inch, and then 2 notches off the 6, and that will fit onto there. And then what I can do is turn that around, and these pieces on the end, they're 1 by 5. So I'm going to take 2 notches off that 1 again. And then I'm going to take those to 2 notches under that 5. Those are going to fit into there rather nicely. Second one, and then this piece here is 4 by 5, so I'm going to take that to 2 notches under the 4 and 2 notches under the 5, and then that one will fit onto there very nicely like so. Okay. So what I decided I wanted to do is I wanted to bring in a little bit of the edge to edge foiled card, And I think what I'm going to do is cut it this way. So I'm going to cut a piece that's 3/4 of an inch, because I actually just want it for those two side pieces. So now this needs to be 4 3/4. And I should get both of those pieces out of that because I've done it on that length. Just to bring that bit of luxury to my card. Although I am going to be using Adorable Scoreable, so that is going to bring a nice bit of luxury as well. So this is not 2025 Adorable Scoreable colour, but it is like a bright, well, it's like a lemon yellow, I guess. So if you've got any Adorable Scoreable from this year, you can just pick whichever one you think sort of goes with it. So I'm going to take a piece that's 3/4 of an inch and cut that to 5 3/4. That's going to go along there. So what I'm doing is bringing in that lemon and lime sort of feel to this card, really. And then 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. Now you might think this is a waste. You can use it as a mat. Lately I've been using them for foiling more birthday sentiments, that sort of thing. Usually spellbinders, sort of dies. I think press plates that you can foil with. I really love, and also there are a few Crafters Companion ones, but I haven't got very many of those, just a couple from the main launch. And if you wanted to, you could go ahead and emboss this if you've got a leafy pattern, even if it's just dots, anything like that would bring that up rather nicely. I'm not too worried about this border piece because I am going to be bringing in the border from here. So if I just cut that out super quick, actually I'll bring that trimmer back in and trim it down before I move on. So let's use the little guillotine because that's just right under my hand. And I'm just going to cut this to 5 3/4. There we go. The other thing you can do, if you just going back to this big yellow piece, if you haven't got any embossing folders, you can just use this scoreboard to put some lines or texture on. So just knock the guillotine over. But let's start doing some assembling. I think I am going to just put a little bit of texture on there just to raise that. So let's bring scoreboard in. And what I'm going to do is, so I've got it at the 3 3/4 at the top, and I'm just scoring at 1/2 inch. And then what I'm going to do is pop this on the long ways, and then at the 1/2 inch and the one next to it, I'm popping 2 scores in. So every 1/2 inch and the one next to it. This is just going to give me a bit of texture, which will just help that topper lift itself from the actual backing, with this being the same colour. Probably maybe should have gone with yellow foil if I had some for the sides, and then green with the top of it. Now we've got that sort of lovely squared pattern. Hopefully you can see. Yeah, I think you can just about pick that up. So it's just added a little bit of texture, and you can go on the diagonal, you know, there's loads of things you can do. And I think that will now just help lift that up a little better. So I'm a little happier with that now. Okay. So we're just going to flatten that out. And the glues I'm going to be using today, so I've got my Clout all-purpose glue, my Clout tacky glue, and I've also got my dot tape pen, which I love. So let's start with this piece first of all, and because it's a smaller piece, I'm trying to make up my mind what I was doing there, my hands weren't working properly. I'm just going to use the dots on the end and the all-purpose in the middle. So it just means I've got the best of both worlds. I can manoeuvre that into position. Then when I'm happy with my borders, and if it doesn't stick down straight away, you can press those dots down and that will hold that in place while that all-purpose glue is gluing, because it does take a little longer. You have got quite a wide window room of being able to manoeuvre things around with that tacky all-purpose glue. And then we're going to do the same again with that lovely little piece of lemon there. We do the same with these. So I don't know if any of you were watching Hobby Maker yesterday at 7 o'clock, but Henry was there. There was lots of pictures, little Henry, in a little book I did with the essential book of the alphabet, the Miri version. So if you want to see some cute pictures of Henry from when he was a puppy up to pretty much where he is today, a little bit, yeah, just have a quick look at Hobby Maker 7 o'clock show. He showed it at the beginning and at the end, so yeah. I told him he was yesterday, he was on the telly and he goes throw ball. So we played ball. That's what the rich and famous are doing these days, throwing their ball and catching it. Bless him. He had a bit of a rough night. Well, we both had a bit of a rough night really, because there is a mosquito in my room and he generally sleeps under my bed, although he has got a bed next to my bed, and this mosquito kept trying to get him, and he was at one point, he was having a lovely dream because he was like running, you know, like they do, they run in their sleep, and chatter and his ears were going, so obviously somebody was talking to him and he was running, but then this mosquito, so about 3-4 o'clock in the morning we were trying to find it, couldn't find it. I had to sleep with the light on in the end, and then it kind of left us alone. Okay, so for these bigger pieces I'm just going to go to my normal glues, which is the tacky and the all-purpose. Tacky in the corner because that does glue a bit faster. It's still got that bit of wiggle room time that we like, so that we can make sure we've got it where we want it to go, nice even borders and such, but it dries a bit faster, so we can move on to the next layer and not have to worry about it moving quite so much, although it does happen. Okay, so let's put this on, and even though you can see where I've embossed it, it is arching a little bit. When the glues go on, it will hold it down nice and flat. We don't have to worry about that. Okay, and then this piece is going to come across there, but I think I'm going to do it with a ordinary foam pad. So I've got this little one lonely pad of Hunkydory. So let's use that one up. And I might have to just add a little bit there. I haven't decided where I'm putting my sentiment yet, so it might go at the bottom. Let me see what it's like when I've got this border on. And we might put the sentiment under the topper itself. Okay. So that one's there. So let's grab that sentiment. It's exactly the same length as the topper. that's going to be perfect. Okay, so are we going to do, let me just grab some more 1mm pads. Enough. I'm just keeping it quite low on here. No particular reason, just you can take it higher if you want those 4mm foam pads. Just bear in mind, you know, if you do go up in height, then you have to make sure you've got an envelope that it will fit in. If you are a diamond member and you wanted to go to a nice chunky card, the card boxes, handmade card boxes, the sort of thinner ones and the deep ones are both on the diamond deals. I think it's like £4.50, and you get loads in there as well for that money. You know, it's a good deal. So I always make sure I've got at least 2 packets in. So let's just pop some glue on there. Let's put it the right way around so they don't have to be Australian to read it. Here's simply the zest. Just take all of these backs off, and I just pop a little bit of tacky glue on just in case, as I quite often do, pop it a little bit on the wonk and I just want to readjust it. Just gives me that opportunity to do that. There we go. So tacky, and you don't have to put it all over. As long as you put a nice little coating on, it will just give you that ability. The other thing which is brilliant, and I mean brilliant, is the purple glue stick. That is brilliant for doing that as well. So that's what we're looking at. Now I think we do need some gems, but I think the only thing that's going to work is going to be gold. And I've hidden them. Here we go. So let's grab some of these in there. So this sort of medium-y size. Always grab some more if I need them. Where's my pen? And then what I'm going to do is just, let's see, pick out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on that one. Just pop those on. And I love these spiral sort of patterns for this. And I've picked all the same gems, besides gems, but you could go with some smaller ones if you wanted. And then this one, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go 6 on there, just so we get that odd number. And this kind of thing, just sitting and putting beads on little things like this, is just, I love this, it's just so relaxing. It's a bit like diamond painting but freestyle. There we go. So the glue will dry clear. I can see there are some white bits around some of the gems, but it will dry clear. And that is going to be my cute little lemon and lime stepper. You could come in with a thank you sentiment. You're simply the zest. It could be birthday, could be thank you. It could be, you know, somebody's graduated, passed a test, you know, done something great, promotion, that sort of thing. So you could always come in with a little sub sentiment down here, just explaining. Plenty of room on that card for that one. But that is card number 1, and I'm just going to get set up for card number 2. Okay, so for the second card, I'm just going to take, so I've got 2 pieces of 6 by 12. I'm just going to pop one to the side for a second, and then I'm going to score at 3 and at 6. like so. And this one I'll bring it in ready, and I'm going to score at 5, but I do need to cut this one down. Okay, so that is there. So let's just give one a burnish down. And that is going to be the base of my card. Okay, it doesn't stand very well at the moment, but don't worry. Let's bring in my trimmer. Now this piece I'm going to cut to 5 by 10. So that's just going to make a little 5 by 5 card, which will attach to this other base. I'll give it a burnish down in a second, but that's essentially what will happen on this card. It will go over like so. Okay, so let's start with some layers. Now I want some gold mirror cards, so I do need to decorate quite a few pieces on this. So I'm going to do a piece for the back, which is 6 by 6, so I'm going to take 2 notches off that, whip that round, and 2 notches, so that's going to pop into there. And then I'm going to take this other piece, and I need a piece for here, which is 3 by 6, so I'm going to take that to 2 notches under the 3 and 2 notches under the 6, and then I'm just going to grab an A4 sheet. Okay, so for this piece I need to decorate the outside and the inside, so I'm going to cut this to 2 notches under the 5, and then we want 2 pieces of 2 notches under the 5. So for this one you need to really cut, or at least assemble the back before you assemble the front. So I'm going to go ahead and cut all of my layers and show you. So those are the 2 pieces for there. Now to go on in the inside of there, I've got one of these trim me inserts, and I just need to trim that along the 5 by 5 guidelines. So nice and easy with this one. I love these little pads, it's great. You don't have to work out where the thing is, you just know by these lines. So that will fit nicely onto there. I might tidy those lines up with the guillotine, a bit fluffy because it's paper. So that goes into there. And then to decorate that, I'm going with this. Again, this is not 2025 red, it's just using up some of the cardstock that I have. And I've picked this one, which is kind of like a pepper red. So I'm just cutting this again to 4 3/4 to mat onto that small card. And that will go onto there, which is going to hold our topper. So that's that little piece done. And then for here, for this front bit, which is 3 by 6, I'm using this gold edge to edge. This is from the Pun-tastic foiled edge to edge collection. And I'm just taking this to 2 3/4 by 5 3/4. Like so. And then for the back, I'm using the, again, save those pieces, you never know when they're going to come in. I'm using the actual Pun-tastic pad, and we're just going to cut this one to 5 3/4 square. again, you can save these, they're perfect for borders and that sort of thing. That is going to go in there, so you can see you've got quite a bright card happening with this one. So let me, just before I do anything else and forget, just grab that insert. I'm just going to go around all 4 corners, just because my blade has left that cut a little fluffy. So I'm not measuring because I'm just taking the very tip off. And the pin is great for that. You can see how thin that is. And then that last one. There we go. And just double check that that looks nice on there. And it does. Okay. So let's just move that out of the way. I love the sound of a guillotine. So let's do some assembling. Somebody's doing some gardening because they're banging on the wall. So just using your usual glues, clout all purpose, and the tacky for this card stock, this Goldberry card. I'm just going to pop that on. There we go. And then this one, because it's the paper, I'm going to use my dotty tape pen and my all-purpose. Oops. And then we can just maneuver that into place. If you didn't want to use the papers, you could always just use a piece of yellow, you know, another piece of that yellow cardstock that we used on that first card. It would work. Sorry, I was just listening because I can hear a little bit of rolling, so I don't know what that is. Maybe it's a plane. Maybe it's somebody gardening, I don't know. But no, let's get back to the crafting. Let's not worry about the 180s are doing. Probably sound like a proper lazy neighbour, don't I? The thing is, they're always up to something, do you know what I mean? So you just gotta... And I don't leave the house, so this is like my entertainment. There we go, so that's what we've got there. And then let's go ahead and do the same for our little card. And just popping that in. And then that's on. You can really feel the foiling on that. I love those pads. Just give that a burnish down because we forgot. And again, same. And again, you could be embossing this if you wanted to. I'm going plain on this one. So because I've gone for the pepper red, you probably guessed I'm going to be using the pizza. So let's just give that a minute to glue while we grab our pizza. So we've got quite a lot of black on this, which is why I went for those checkers. And then we've got our have a slice day. What I may do is put a little pop of yellow behind it, but it's fine, it shows up alright, so it's fine. I was worried that when that was on there you wouldn't see it because there's quite a lot of black, but it does pop out quite nicely. Okay, so this one we are going to fix onto the back of here. Probably would be better off doing this with some red liner tape for the sake of this video, but let's see if I get away with it. And what I want this to do is to come over the top of here. Let's just move that. So yeah, that's going to be fine. So I've just gone about ½ an inch down and about the same left to right. Then we'll give that a moment to set. Now the sentiment, because that's going to be my stopper, I'm putting 2mm on that. So let's put a nice amount on there because they do need to be our support. Get more on. There we go, that's that one. And then this one we will pop 1mm on, because it's already coming forward on the actual card itself, so we don't have to do too much work with it. And it will fold down into a normal 6x6 envelope. Mine is slightly oversized, so I do find it easier. If your envelope is quite tight, then you might have a little bit of a problem with it. You might have to go for one of the card boxes instead, but if you have got just a generous envelope, you'll be fine. I think the ones I use are 160mm. Sometimes I use a 164. Let's come in with our pizza. We'll put that. I'm going to go just a little higher because some of this card will go behind that stopper. There we go. And then this one, kind of have to work out where that is going to go. There we go, we'll pop some tacky glue on. Now let's get it the right way up. Now stand my card up. Now I do want it to stand quite nicely, so I do want that quite nice and proud. So I'm thinking, get this the right way round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So quite near the top. I've sort of lined it up with the actual topper itself, and then what should happen is that will fit underneath like so, and it will support the card, like you can see that's doing there, that's holding it quite nicely. You might have to add instructions if you're selling the card, or have it displayed so people know exactly how it's supposed to go. You could have it lower, but then you find that the top comes over a bit more. So if you have that a little higher, it's going to stand, oops, more like a normal card. And it's not unsturdy, let's put it that way. Okay. So that's there. Now let's go with some gems. Now I think if I've got some nice bright red ones, they would be perfect. And I have got some. I know I have. I know where they'll be. I know where they'll be. Let's have a look. So those are more orangey red. Green, blue. Oh. No, they're not there. What that means? That means I've had them and not put them back where they belong. let's go with some gold. The red would have been better, but let's go with some gold. So I'm going to just put one on each of these corners. And then I'm going to pop 2, 2, 3. I'm going to pop a sort of larger one in the centre. Again, going quite close to the topper because we've got to pop it underneath our little stopper. There we go. That is going to be card number 2. Let's just super gently pop that back as it should be and show you that's how that would sit on a shelf. Kind of thinking there's a bit off about that gem. There we go. That's there. If you wanted to, you could pop some more gems at the bottom there. I'm not going to on that one, but that is card number 2. Like I said, a little bit more involved, a bit more materials needed for that one. And then you've got that cute, fresh, Simply the Zest card in the stepper form. I know I did do a stepper as one of my DT stamples, but I did it differently and I did it with one of the circle ones. So, you know, it's just showing you how different things can look with different things on. Different materials, if you know what I mean. But that's it for today, so thank you so much for watching. Hopefully next time it's going to be a goodie box reveal. There'll be 2 videos of that because I've got 2 boxes coming. Just the same format I did before, where I open a box, make a card, 1 card with something that's in there, and that will be the video, and I'll do that on both of those 2, and then we'll move on to that gorgeous new floral kit. So thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your week. Well, it's nearly the weekend. And until next time, happy crafting. Bye.